Do you ever feel the pressure to fix someone? Do you ever feel guilty when someone else makes a mistake? Do you ever find yourself worrying about someone more than they're worried about themselves? Or do you ever catch yourself working harder on someone's problems than they are? Do you ever catch yourself being in an unhealthy caretaker role to where you're doing things for others they should be doing for themselves, taking the responsibility from them, making excuses for them, anticipating needs? And when that person still doesn't change, get better, or perform in the way that you want them to, you become angry, and then you become their persecutor, and you may try to make them feel guilty, try to make them feel embarrassed. When that doesn't work and they still don't change, you find yourself thinking like a victim, thinking things like, can't they see how much I do for them and they still refuse to change? If you're squirming in your seat right now, relax. All this means is you've been given a massive heart from God to help and to take care of people. But probably what happened is that heart God gave you, it got twisted. And now you have a warped sense of responsibility. You feel responsible for things you are simply not responsible for. So if that's describing you, it usually helps if you can find the origin of it. So we're going to use the genogram. Now I know just enough about the genogram to be dangerous, right? So we're not going to use it to really get into the weeds, but it does create a very good visual to see the origin of how our sense of responsibility can get very warped. So squares are males and circles are females. So this would be dad, this would be mom, and let's just say this family has a daughter and a son. Now, in a functional family, which I haven't met a lot yet, but there's probably a few out there, but in a functional family, basically what happens is there's a tight bond between these two, and then that tight bond comes down and catches both kids equally, all right? What happens in a dysfunctional family is when someone is out of their role. So let's say there was tension between mom and dad, and at a very young age, the mom looked to the daughter for emotional support. All right, the mom may not have done this on purpose, but she was just so desperate to have someone to connect with and someone to share with that the next thing she knows, she is sharing things with her daughter that she never should have when it comes to tension here. Or maybe she didn't share. Maybe the daughter's discernment just knew, hey, this is not good, and I'm feeling the pressure to take care of mom, all right? So what happens is the daughter jumps up into this role, or the mom turns here for emotional support. Now, when this happens, and it happens often, the child feels something they're never ever designed to feel. A child is never designed to feel the pressure of being there for a parent, all right? And when this happens, shame becomes a backdrop because we know we can't do it. We just simply can't, but we still feel like we need to try. And then even as a child, there are those occasions when we do make our parents feel better, and that makes it even worse because the brain goes, that worked, I can do this. So now it ends up becoming a lifestyle, and then this person ends up with a warped sense of responsibility. This may not have began with you with a parent. It could have been a first boyfriend. First boyfriend, troubled home, and you felt the need to be something for him that you were never ever designed to feel as a 15, 16-year-old, right? So you end up with a warped sense of responsibility. It could be that the parents put pressure on her to be responsible for the brother. That happens a lot, especially if we start working this out and there's a lot of siblings, right? The oldest one can start to feel responsible for the younger ones, and now this child is feeling something a child is never designed to feel, and that is responsible for another human being. Then they end up with a warped sense of responsibility. Take that into adulthood, and it causes all kind of relational problems. And pressure, fear, and guilt Pressure, fear, and guilt are the primary emotions that this person is experiencing as they enter into adulthood and start to feel responsible for things that they're simply not responsible for. So what's the truth? The truth is, as a child, you were never, ever designed to be responsible for another human being. People were supposed to be taking care of you, not you taking care of anyone else. And I'm so sorry that you felt that pressure. You were never designed to feel it. And let's just say that parents ended up divorced. It wasn't your fault. It was not your fault. But if you were put in this position to where you felt like you were supposed to be there for mom or be there for dad, and then they end up divorcing as a child, it's often that the child feels like it's their fault. It was not your fault. So you were never responsible for them or them, and whatever happened in their lives was not your fault. So to embrace those truths, to let those truths make your mind new, that you were never responsible for them and it was not your fault. Now we can start looking at forgiving someone, forgiving whoever put you in that position and giving them what Jesus has given you, which is full and complete forgiveness. That will increase your freedom. I'm not saying you need to have a conversation with them. Maybe, maybe not. Go back and watch the forgiveness video in the May You chapters. Talks a lot about forgiveness, all right? So to claim truth, to sit in truth, to flood your mind with truth, and then to give forgiveness of the one who put you in that position in the first place. And ultimately to understand that only Jesus can meet your emotional needs. Because right now, that's what you're doing. That list of things that I described in the beginning of this video, those are there because you're trying to get emotional need met. You're trying to take care of, fix, change people so you can feel something. It is not their job to make you feel that. And by the way, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. Because when you run that cycle, caretaker, persecutor, victim, what happens? You either redouble your efforts and try harder with the same person, or you detach, have a moment of sanity and say, I'm never doing that again. Next thing you know, you're running that cycle with the next person. So the truth can free us from that. Forgiveness can free us from that. And understanding that only Jesus can be the ultimate source for your emotional needs, those needs that you are looking for. And when Jesus starts to meet those needs on a deep, deep level, you stop trying to control people because you know you can't. You can't control them. Also, when Jesus is meeting those needs, you'll be okay even if they aren't. Because right now, they have to be okay in order for you to be okay. Now, I'm not saying you become numb or isolated or, fully detached and not care. What I'm saying is ultimately your okayness is in Jesus, not whether that person is doing okay or not. Then you begin to understand that even though, yes, you are responsible to people, you're not responsible for people, and there's a big difference. Yeah, we got responsibilities to people, but I can make the argument that our responsibility is our response to God's ability. All right, let me say that again. Our responsibility is our response to God's ability. So even our response, when we're responsible to people, we're still drawing life from God and being a conduit for God to touch people. So yeah, you're responsible to people to a degree, but you are not responsible for anyone. So may you look to Jesus to get those emotional needs met and stop looking to other people to be okay, for you to feel safe or loved or valuable. And may you experience the freedom that comes when that pressure begins to lift as you embrace truth. If this video has been helpful, click that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.